Bogomilism, Bulgarian, was a Christian neo-Gnostic or dualist religio-political sect founded in the First Bulgarian Empire by the priest Bogomil during the reign of Tsar Peter I in the 10th century. It most probably arose in what is today the region of Macedonia as a response to the social stratification that occurred with the introduction of feudalism and as a form of political movement and opposition to the Bulgarian state and the church. The Bogomils called for a return to what they considered to be early spiritual teaching, rejecting the ecclesiastical hierarchy, and their primary political tendencies were resistance to the state and church authorities. This helped the movement spread quickly in the Balkans, gradually expanding throughout the Byzantine Empire and later reaching Kievan Rus, Bosnia, Dalmatia, Rasa, Italy, and France. Cathars. The Bogomils were dualists or Gnostics, people of knowledge, in that they believed in a world within the body and a world outside the body. They did not use the Christian cross, nor build churches, as they revered their gifted form and considered their body to be the temple. This gave rise to many forms of practice to cleanse oneself through purging, fasting, celebrating and dancing. Paulicians, one of the earliest Christian dualist heresies, Marcionism, originated in eastern Anatolia. The church Marcion himself established, appeared to die out around the 5th century, although similarities between Marcionism and Paulicianism, a heresy in the same geographical area, indicate that Marcionist elements may have survived. Paulicianism as a heresy began in the mid-7th century, when Constantine of Manalis, basing his message solely on the New Testament, began to teach that there were two gods, a good God who had made men's souls, and an evil God who had created the entire physical universe including the human body. His followers, who became known as Paulicians, were not marked by extreme deviance in lifestyle compared to contemporaries, despite their belief that the world was evil, and were renowned as good fighting men. In 970 the Byzantine Emperor John I Tzimisk transplanted no less than 200,000 Armenian Paulicians to Europe and settled them in the neighborhood of Philippopolis, today's Plovdiv in Thrace. Under Byzantine and then later Ottoman rule, the Armenian Paulicians lived in relative safety in their ancient stronghold near Philippopolis, and further northward. Linguistically, they were assimilated into the Bulgarians, by whom they were called Pavlikiani, the Byzantine Greek word for Paulician. In 1650, the Roman Catholic Church gathered them into its fold. No less than 14 villages near Nicopolis, in Moesia, embraced Catholicism, as well as the villages around Philippopolis. A colony of Paulicians in the Wallachian village of Shiapli, near Bucharest also followed the example of their brethren across the Danube. Origins: the Gnostic social religious movement and doctrine originated in the time of Peter I of Bulgaria, 927 to 969, alleged in the modern day to be a reaction against state and clerical oppression of the Byzantine Church. In spite of all measures of repression, it remained strong and popular until the fall of the Second Bulgarian Empire in the end of the 14th century. Bogomilism was an outcome of many factors that had arisen in the beginning of 10th century, most probably in the region of Macedonia. It was also strongly influenced by the Paulicians who had been driven out of Armenia. The Slavonic sources are unanimous on the point that Bogomil's teaching was Manichaean. A Sinaiticon from the year 1210 adds the names of his pupils or apostles, Mihail, Todor, Dalbri, Stefan, Vasily and Peter. Zealous missionaries carried their doctrines far and wide. In 1004, scarcely 25 years after the introduction of Christianity into Kievan Rus, we hear of a priest Adrian teaching the same doctrines as the Bogomils. He was imprisoned by Leontius, Bishop of Kiev. In 1125, the church in the south of Rus had to combat another heresiarch named Dimitri. The church in Bulgaria also tried to extirpate Bogomilism. Several thousand went in the army of Alexios I Komnenos against the Norman, Robert Guiscard, But, deserting the emperor, many of them, 1,085, were thrown into prison. Efforts were again put forth for their conversion, and for the converts the new city of Alexiopolis was built, opposite Philippopolis. When the Crusaders took Constantinople, 1204, they found some Paulicians, whom the historian Geoffrey of Villehardouin calls Popelicans. The legend of Saint Gerard discloses that followers of Bulgarian Bogomilism were present during the early 11th century in Elam's realm, which comprised present-day Banat. They invoked Archangel Uriel, whose name is common in amulets and magic rituals. Spread of Bogomilism in the Balkans. The Bogomils spread westwards and settled in Serbia, where they were to be known as Babuni. At the end of the 12th century, Serbian Grand Prince Stefan Nemanja and the Serbian Council deemed Bogomilism a heresy, and expelled them from the country. Large numbers took refuge in Bosnia and Dalmatia, where they were known under the name of paterns, paterni. Providing refuge to heretics, including Bogomils, was a recurrent pretext for Hungarian rulers to declare crusades against Bosnia and extend their influence in the region. A first Hungarian complaint to the Pope was averted by the public abjuration of the Bosnian ruler Ban Kulin in 1203. A second Hungarian crusade against Bosnia on Bogomil heresy pretext was launched in 1225, but failed. In 1254, rebelling against the papal order to accept a Hungarian bishop, the Bosnian Church chose the schism. In the following centuries, the Bosnian Church, autonomous from Rome but mainly following Catholic doctrine, and the heretic sect of the Bogomils came to be identified with each other, due to the scarcity of documents after the Ottoman conquest. In 1203, Pope Innocent III, with the aid of the King of Hungary, forced an agreement of Kulin to acknowledge papal authority and religion. In practice this was ignored. On the death of Kulin in 1216 a mission was sent to convert Bosnia to Rome but failed. In 1234, the Catholic Bishop of Bosnia was removed by Pope Gregory IX for allowing heretical practices. 17. In addition, Gregory called on the Hungarian king to crusade against the heretics. However, Bosnian nobles were able to expel the Hungarians. In 1252, Pope Innocent IV decided to put Bosnia's bishop under the Hungarian Kalocsa jurisdiction. Such decision provoked the schism of the Bosnian Christians, who refused to submit to the Hungarians and broke off their relations with Rome. In that way, an autonomous Bosnian church came into being, in which some later saw a Bogomil or Cathar church, while in reality no trace of Bogomilism, Catharism or dualism can be found in the original documents of the Bosnian Christians. It was not until Pope Nicholas Bull Prae Cunctus in 1291 that the Franciscans-led Inquisition was imposed on Bosnia. The Inquisition reported of the existence of a dualist sect in Bosnia in the late 15th century and called them Bosnian heretics, but this sect was most likely not the same as the Bosnian Church. Bogomilism was eradicated in Bulgaria and Byzantium in the 13th century, but survived in Bosnia and Herzegovina until the Ottoman Empire gained control of the region in 1463. Both Catholics and Orthodox persecuted the Bogomils as heretics. The early pressures by its Catholic and Orthodox neighbors drew Bosnia to Bogomilism. Later, with the introduction of Ottoman rule, Bosnians were often more susceptible for conversion to Islam since they were not friends of either the Roman Catholic or Serb Orthodox churches. From Bosnia, their influence extended into Italy, Piedmont. The Hungarians undertook many crusades against the heretics in Bosnia, but towards the close of the 15th century, the conquest of that country by the Turks put an end to their persecution. Few or no remnants of Bogomilism have survived in Bosnia. The ritual in Slavonic written by the Bosnian Radoslav, and published in Volume 15 of the Starin of the South Slavonic Academy Adagram, shows great resemblance to the Cathar ritual published by Kunitz, 1853. In the 18th century, The Paulician people from around Nicopolis were persecuted by the Turks, presumably on religious grounds, and a good part of them fled across the Danube and settled in the Banat region that was part of the Austrian Empire at the time, and became known as Banat Bulgarians. There are still over 10,000 Banat Bulgarians in Banat today in the villages of Dudestaveki, Vina, Bresa and also in the city of Timisoara, with a few in Erid. However, they no longer practice Bogomilism, having converted to Roman Catholicism. There are also a few villages of Paulicians in the Serbian part of Banat, especially the villages of Ivanovo and Belo Blado, near Pančevo. Social factors: the gradual Christianization of the Bulgarian population, the fact that the service was initially practiced in Greek, which only the elite knew, resulted in a low level of understanding of the religion among the peasantry. Due to the constant wars during the time of Simeon I, the lands near the Byzantine border, Thrace, were devastated, and the people living there were left without occupation. The constant change of authority over these lands, and the higher taxes during the time of Tsar Peter I, gave birth to a great social discontent at the beginning of the 10th century. Moreover, the corruption of the Church as an institution led to grave disappointment among its recently converted flock. Religious factors: the existence of older Christian heresies in the Bulgarian lands, Manichaeism and Paulicianism, which were considered very dualistic, influenced the Bogomil movement. Manichaeism's origin is related to Zoroastrianism, that is why Bogomilism is sometimes indirectly connected to Zoroastrianism in the sense of its duality. Connections to the royal court: some historians claim that Tsar Samuil and in particular his son Gavrodimir supported the movement. Citation needed. The core of Samuil's empire corresponds to the region where the Bogomils were most active. Most probably, as Samuil revolted against the Byzantine Empire, he relied on the popular support of the movement. There are no sources of Bogomil persecution during his reign, 976 to 1014.